Imagine you wake up tomorrow with $10 million. Not billionaire money, not private island. Money. Not accidentally bought a newspaper company because you were bored. Money. Just regular rich people. Money. The kind of rich where you stop looking at menu prices but still occasionally complain about taxes. Now here's the interesting question. What happens next? Most people imagine wealth changes everything. Luxury cars, massive mansions, champagne, fountains, a pet tiger named Gregory. But after you look closely at wealthy people, you start noticing something strange. Many of them seem to come from the same factory. They all own suspiciously similar things. They talk about the same topics. They make the same financial moves. It's like there's a rich person starter pack. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's begin with the first item, the house. Not just a house in the correct zip code. This is important, very important, possibly more important than the house itself. Rich people don't just buy square footage, they buy location, schools, networks, status. Convenience, and occasionally neighbors who also own boats they barely use. A wealthy person will happily spend an absurd amount of money to shave 15 minutes off a commute, because once you have money, time becomes the thing you're trying to buy. Which is ironic because poor people spend years trying to get money, and rich people spend money trying to get time. Human beings are fascinating. The second item in the starter pack, the investment. Portfolio rich people love investments, not because they're exciting. Actually, that's the weird part. Most investments are incredibly boring. The average wealthy person isn't spending all day yelling, buy, sell, buy, sell. That's mostly movies. Real wealth is often built through painfully boring assets. Index funds, real estate. Businesses. Private investments. Things that make for terrible action scenes. Imagine watching a movie where the hero achieves financial freedom through consistent contributions to diversified investment vehicles, yet that's often closer to reality. The third item, the accountant. Every rich person eventually acquires an accountant, the way superheroes acquire sidekicks. At first, money is simple. Then things become complicated. Investments, properties, businesses, trusts. Tax planning. Suddenly, there's a person whose entire job is translating financial documents into human language. Rich people understand something important. The more money you have, the more expensive mistakes become, which means paying experts often saves money. This concept appears repeatedly. Lawyers, accountants, financial advisors. Wealthy people frequently buy expertise, not because they're smarter, because they know what they don't know. The fourth item, the LLC. If aliens studied wealthy Americans, they might conclude LLCs are a religious practice. Everything becomes an LLC. The rental property, the consulting business, the side business, the business that owns another business, at some point, wealthy. People's organizational charts start resembling a conspiracy board. Strings everywhere, boxes everywhere, boxes everywhere. Nobody knows what's happening anymore, including some of the people involved. Now let's discuss the car. Because this is where people get things wrong. Many assume wealthy people drive exotic skirkers, and some absolutely do. But a surprising number drive vehicles so normal they practically apologize for existing. The richest person in the room is often not driving the loudest car. Meanwhile, somebody earning $60,000 is financing a vehicle that sounds like a fighter jet. Money creates strange incentives. When you're trying to look rich, you buy expensive things. When you are rich, you often stop caring. Not always, but often. Another key item in the starter pack, the phrase, it's an asset. Rich people love saying this. Everything is an asset. The rental property, the business, the investment, the land, the parking lot, the warehouse that owns another warehouse somewhere along the way. Wealthy people stop viewing purchases as purchases. They start viewing them as cash flow machines. This is one of the biggest mental shifts. Average consumers ask, what does this cost? Wealthy investors often ask, what does this earn? Very different question, very different outcome. Next comes networking, a word that sounds harmless, until you realize it's basically professional friendship collecting. Rich people often spend enormous amounts of time around other successful people. Business owners meet business owners. Investors meet investors. Executives meet executives. Opportunities travel through networks. Information travels through networks. Deals travel through networks. Sometimes it feels like the economy is secretly powered by people having lunch. Another starter pack item, the obsession with taxes. Nobody thinks about taxes more than wealthy people. Except maybe accountants, rich people can spend hours discussing strategies, deductions, structures, and planning. Not because they enjoy it, nobody enjoys taxes that much, hopefully, but because keeping money and making money are closely related activities. The first million and the last million often receive very different treatment than there are books. Lots of books. Wealthy people either genuinely love reading business books or own enough of them to create the appearance. Every rich person's shelf contains at least 3 titles about habits, leadership, investing, or decision-making. Whether they've actually finished reading them remains a mystery. The books are there. That's what matters. And then we arrive at perhaps the most important starter pack item: ownership. This is the big one, the giant difference, the thing hiding underneath almost everything else. Rich people tend to own things: stocks, businesses, real estate, intellectual property, assets. They don't rely exclusively on selling time. This doesn't mean they don't work hard. Many do, very hard, but ownership changes the game, because there are only 24 hours in a day. No matter how productive you become, eventually time runs out. Ownership allows wealth to grow independently of hours worked. Stock doesn't care if you're asleep. A business doesn't stop existing because you're on vacation. Assets keep moving, and over long periods, ownership can create enormous advantages. This is why conversations about wealth almost always circle back to assets again and again and again. And again, it's basically the financial equivalent of every road leading to Rome. Now here's the funny part. Most rich people don't actually wake up one day and receive the entire starter pack. It's accumulated. Gradually, one investment becomes several. One property becomes 2. One property becomes 2. One business becomes multiple. One connection leads to another. The starter pack isn't a shopping list. It's the result of years of compounding, which is unfortunate because compounding is probably the least exciting answer in finance. People want secret tricks, hidden shortcuts, underground wealth formulas instead. They get "be patient for 20 years." Not exactly thrilling, but remarkably common. So what is the rich person's starter pack? A good zip code? A portfolio? An accountant? An LLC? An unhealthy interest in taxes? A growing collection of assets? A network of useful relationships? And an increasing focus on ownership over consumption. Not nearly as glamorous as social media would have you believe. No gold-plated helicopters, no shark-filled swimming pools, no underground volcano headquarters, just a collection of systems, assets, and habits that tend to appear over and over again, which may be disappointing, but it's also revealing, because once you look past the luxury watches and expensive cars, wealth often looks surprisingly boring. And if there's one thing rich people seem to understand, it's that boring things compound. Which is great news, because exciting things usually send you a bill afterward.